Hello, welcome to another video from Lattice Training. Today we are going to be looking at pull-up exercises for intermediate climbers. I've got Jen with me who's going to be demoing and talking through some of the exercises as well. But before we get started and kind of get stuck into those 5 key exercises that we think are really relevant to intermediate climbers, I just want to kind of check in with Jen and also to kind of inform you listening is where I think some of the most important things that we should be looking at in terms of pull-ups and also how you prepare and warm up for it. So Jen, I know you train really hard, I think we both do. What are the kind of stuff that you're doing for your warm up in a session for pull-ups?
So I've not climbed before my conditioning. I like to get my shoulders warmed up, so maybe some therabanding, shoulder shrugs, and then I do some pull-ups, maybe just at a lower intensity to the session.
And then are you making sure you're kind of pretty warm overall in the body, or?
Yeah, definitely. But I'd say like my shoulders are the main thing I like to warm up.
Yeah, and then from there, you're just getting straight into the hardest stuff in the pull-ups, or are you kind of like easing in slowly and doing each exercise increasingly hard on that?
Yeah, I'll definitely like build the intensity of the exercise, like especially if I'm using weights or something, I'll start at much lower load and then just build that up to the session.
Cool. I think next thing that I think is interesting for everyone else out there watching as well is that both Jen and I do plenty of training, do plenty of climbing. Jen's really a competition climber. I'm an outdoor trad climber, but we both use pull-ups in our training. And the real reason or the approach that we take with the pull-up exercise in terms of our training is that we want a high degree of specificity in those pull-up exercises so it translates back into our climbing. So even though Jen is doing something very different on a climbing wall to what I'm doing, we try and go for that specificity element. So that's really important. So it applies and it transfers across into climbing. And we're going to show you on some of the exercises. Next up, I think probably should talk about some of the key things to avoid. Because there's some stuff that we've seen on the internet, whether it's on blogs or other videos, or people even sometimes down the wall doing, and we think, that's not really quite the way we would do it, is it? So let's talk first of all about you write training plans as well as I do, about loading. What do we kind of really try and avoid in the loading sense in terms of training planning?
So we like to do like a gradual load. You don't want to jump in with 200% body weight straight away. That's just going to injure you pretty quick. Yeah,
and it's the frequency as well, isn't it? That just because you're doing something lower intensity, so you might take what Jen said there and go, not super intense straight away. Maybe I can do that really frequently every single day. But no, remember that loading is a function of frequency or sort of volume and intensity, so that's really important. What about grip position? Do you do your pull-ups with your knuckles facing you and facing away, or do you tend to just do one?
Yeah, I nearly always do them this way. That's just pretty much what you do on the climbing wall all the time, isn't it? Very rarely pull like this, maybe the odd undercut, but I generally do my pull-ups like this way.
Yeah, specificity element, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Shall we get going into the first exercises?
Sure.
Yeah, so we're going to go through 5 of them. I'm going to give you some demos. Some I'm going to do, some Jen are going to do. I'm going to talk you through some of those key points that you're looking out for on these exercises. First exercise that I'm going to do on the bar is a heavy max weighted pull-up exercise. This really, for intermediate climbers, should be a staple of your pull-up exercises that you're doing, whether it's at home or at the gym. And that's because this is really, really good for building maximum strength levels in terms of both recruitment and also some changes in muscle structure. Yes, the sets and reps might not be really high on this, and we're looking at loads of muscle bulk, but we're still seeing changes in that connective tissue and that muscle tissue as we're doing these exercises. In terms of the setup, I'm going to use a dipping belt. As soon as you start getting quite heavy, especially at 30 kilos or more, I think that's around 55 pounds in US, is that a dipping belt becomes so much more comfortable than a harness. I see a lot of people use a modified harness. It gets really uncomfortable on your lower back. I'm not a big proponent of that. I think it's better to use the right kit for this. It weights your hips, your lower back a lot better, more comfortable. and you're less likely to snap something as well. Dipping belt setup, big plate weights, make sure they're free hanging so they're not going to hit your knees, get in the way or touch the floor when you're doing the exercise. In terms of sets and reps, you're looking for things to be between 2 to 5 reps, and sets anywhere between 3 and 5 sets. So low reps, relatively moderate amounts of sets. You can do a little bit more than you might if you're doing higher reps, and the intensity is really quite high. So I might be working here at my 2 rep max to 5 rep max range.
So you can see he's going nice and slow, doing the full range of motion, and lowering nice and slow, so not like shock loading the elbows at the bottom. And he's going all the way to the top. Nice.
That was hard, Jen.
Yeah, it looked hard.
Whoa. But that was good because that was really hard. I still felt like I kept the form all the way through. I felt in control, but I was operating right at the margins of my envelope for this exercise. So just completing that second rep. So if I was doing 5 sets of those 2s, I'd be really happy with that kind of intensity, that kind of quality. So really hard. In fact, I'm feeling it already. So next set is going to be harder again, and I might actually look at ever so slightly reducing the load on that, so bring that down by maybe 2 kilos or so, but really trying to keep the form really good all the way through. Okay, second exercise that we're going to look at is an exercise that you can term as long duration isometrics. So what we're going to have is Jen getting on the bar now, and rather than looking at a movement where she's moving up and down in a pull-up, she's just going to be holding a set lock position. And whilst you might look at it and go, well, you know, what's the relevance to Jen or anyone who's trained this for their climbing or their pull-up strength? What's really important about these long duration isometrics is they're really good for the sort of the tendon health and changes in the connective tissue that you have involved with those tissues involved with a pull-up, rather than what we're looking at for our fingers. So a lot of people know about this long duration isometrics for the fingers and forearm, but we can also use exactly the same methodology in a pull-up. So for Jen, first exercise we're going to do on this one is going to be a 90-degree lock on a pull-up bar. Depending on her ability, she'd be doing it at body weight or added body weight. We're going to do this one on body weight initially, and she's looking for a 30-second hold at 90 degrees on the bar. So ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so what Jen's looking for in here is to maintain a nice neutral head position. Her torso's straight, she's not tucked behind, she's not arching her back, but she's really concentrating on maintaining that really strict 90-degree position. 90-degree position on the elbows and both the shoulders. She's at 20 seconds or so, and she'll really start to feel this. It's only body weight, but it really adds in. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, good. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, that burned.
Kind of hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is something we use quite a lot with our clients, isn't it? This longer duration isometric work. Often we have it termed as kind of things like density hangs as well, don't we?
Yeah, that's it.
So with this exercise, we can use this in a different variety of shoulder and elbow positions as well, can't we?
Yeah, that was at 90. We can kind of go, 1-2-5-ish as well. That's quite a good one. A lot of people find that position really hard.
Yeah, deep though, not so much.
No.
I think the deep elbow, lock and right and tight wouldn't really go for, unless you're, specifically working on certain things and maybe had a really deep training history as well in terms of not having problems with elbow health. So we'll have Jen also demonstrate, if she's still got some beans in the bank, the more open position in a second. The additional thing to note with this exercise is that it's not something you're going to be doing tons and tons of reps and sets on. So that 30-second hold, you're not going to try and do that 10, 20 times. Really, you're looking for something, when you're getting into this, around the 6 rep or 6 set mark. And we're talking kind of 30 to 45 second window, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a go at the sort of like the more open position?
I think I'm ready.
Demo that as well.
Okay.
So you've had 2 minutes rest now, so
right.
That should be just enough. And we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so you can see on this one here is we're much more open now in terms of the elbow and the shoulder joints. This is another exercise which is really relevant to climbers. We really like this one. You'll also start to feel this quite often burn in the core a little bit. And if you want to add in a core element to make it harder as well, you can start to pike and bring those feet up in front of you as well. So another really good variation on this. We've got 5 more seconds. Feeling it now?
Yeah, it's way harder.
2, 1, go.
Oh.
Good. Nice one.
Yeah, that was tricky.
Yeah, so, and it looks so innocuous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You think, well, it's body weight. I can do quite a lot of pull-ups body weight, but as soon as you get this long duration isometric going, it's much, much harder.
Yeah, definitely starts to burn.
Yeah, the other interesting thing with it, I think, is that in terms of how it stresses the muscle fibers, is that it essentially cycles through those muscle fibers, and you're not just working those higher intensity, fast twitch muscle fibers, because you're getting fatigability or fatigue occurring in those muscles that in that pull-up exercise. So again, it's just a really nice exercise to use, nice and broad, very applicable back into climbing. Okay, I guess it's my turn now for the next exercise, isn't it?
Yeah,
give a little bit of rest to you. Right, let's get on the next one. Okay, next exercise. We've got a little bit of kit now on the bar as well. So we've got a sling. This could be a towel that we could wrap around the bar, or a bungee cord as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what exercise you're going to put me through now, Jen? What have we got planned for me?
So this exercise, Tom's going to demonstrate some offset pull-ups. So this is really applicable to climbing. We hardly ever have holds right next to each other on the board, on the wall or on the rock. It's also really good for your campus boarding when you're trying to pull from the higher arm and go all the way through.
Something that I'm terrible at.
So it's pretty easy to make this harder or easier as well, just by the length of your like rope you're holding to. Or you can break the movement down and do like the bottom half, and we're using that assistance, or even the top half as well. Are you ready, Tom?
Yeah, which one should I do first? Should I go for the bottom half or the full range of movement?
Let's go bottom half for this one.
So you can ease me in nice on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Right, so he's gonna be holding the assistance in one hand, start at the very bottom of the position, and he's gonna use this assistance to pull with his higher arm into just maybe like 1, 2, 5 position to get really used to that first initial pull. That's it. So yeah, you can go nice and slow again, slow on the way down as well, not to shock load the elbows. Cool, nice.
Oh yeah, that's good. It works well, that one, because essentially that break on the bottom of that much more open position, I think a lot of us struggle with that, and essentially I'm getting a load of help out of this assisted arm to be able to break that open position and get me into a pull-up. So that's the kind of exercise that, I mean, I love doing this one because I'm not very good at it, and it really helps me. What about the full range? What have we got planned for that?
So the full range, pretty much what it says, you're gonna go from the bottom all the way to the top, and you wanna make sure you're pulling to the top of the higher arm, not the lower one.
Okay.
So all the way chin to fist, really. Yeah, nice. And then you can use that arm on the assistance to push down a little bit, so you keep getting assistance right at the top of the pull.
Yeah, you really can flip that arm and push that down. I think, you know, when we're progressing to the harder variations of this, we'll often drop our cord or bungee even lower so that it starts to feel like that movement on the campus board as well, when you're doing stuff that's more like 137, 158, and those much deeper moves, and has a really good transfer into rock climbing or campusing. I think the other thing that I find, I don't know if you're the same, is that as a climber, I've got relatively tight forearms and wrists.
Yeah, definitely.
And that this method here, where I'm trying to hold onto a sling, I have to be careful with the position of it when I'm pushing down. It has to be comfortable.
Yeah, not to like overstretch that.
Like that with a bungee cord's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit nicer. Okay, number 4, next exercise. How's your one-armers, Jem?
They're not there yet, but it's something we all want to be able to do, isn't it?
Yeah, mine aren't there yet either. It happens about once every 5 years for me.
That's pretty good.
So this exercise that we're going to show everyone now is a really good method for progressing into the one-arm pull-up. And it's good because it essentially uses a different type of muscle contraction. So rather than this concentric contraction where we're closing up and we're doing that pull-up, so we're using the shortening of the muscle. When we're doing that pull-up, what we're doing now is doing the lengthening of the muscle. So it's an eccentric contraction of the muscle. So that means we start at the top of a pull-up and we lower down into that straightened, more relaxed position at the bottom. And the cool thing about this for our progression on single arm pull-ups is that we can't do that concentric exercise. So we can't close that full one arm pull-up. Neither me or Jen can. But because of the nature of how the muscle works is we can control that movement from the top all the way down. So it's a way to progress and load that muscle in a very specific manner relevant to one-arm pull-ups, but the muscle can take that amount of force because it can endure a much higher force or load during that eccentric moment in the muscle contraction, if that's not too sciencey.
Okay.
Which arm do you want to do?
Definitely my right arm.
Okay, so right arm.
Strong.
So Jen's going to get into the top of that one-arm pull-up position. So often you can use like a chair, you can use a bungee, or you can even jump up into it and just catch it with two arms. And what she's going to do is find the top of this position where she's really comfortable and she can hold that lock. And then she's going to slowly come down and relax into the bottom of the pull-up position in a controlled manner as possible, being careful to both not shock load the elbow or the shoulder joint. So if Jen does this exercise and she's starting to lose control, let's say beyond the 90-degree angle, she'll let go of the bar and just go down to the ground. So we really want to maintain control all the way through that movement.
Okay.
Okay, so top of the pull-up bar, slowing down, 3, 2, 1, down to the bottom, and then putting her feet down just as she's starting to lose that control right at the bottom, avoiding shock loading both the elbow and the shoulder. In terms of sets and reps, what are we normally looking at for the negatives?
Well, probably not too many. I couldn't do that many reps of that, maybe 3 to 5. Again, like what, 5 to 6 sets, something like that.
Yeah. So same sort of stuff we were doing with the recruitment or the very high intensity strength training, is that we're not going for stuff which is up in 10, 12, 14 rep range and 2 to 3 sets. Is we're going for lower number of reps and slightly higher number of sets. But of course, don't forget, like we said at the beginning, this is all about appropriate loading. So, you know, if Jen has got a history of doing those kind of sets and reps ranges, then she'll tend to match up with that. But if this is the first time that she's doing negatives, she's not going to go straight in and doing, you know, 5x5s or 5x8s, you know, with 8 sets of 5s. It's just too much too soon. So she's going to very gradually build up to it, because this is a, you know, high strain exercise. You're asking the muscle to do something that's only capable of doing in an eccentric motion. So you've got to be really aware that it's a very high intensity exercise, but also one that's very good for you and works very well with those one-arm pull-ups if you're careful with it. Okay, last exercise we're going to do is essentially a pull-up exercise of a weights exercise that we often do as climbers, which is the reverse curl, really emphasizing the stress or the load on the brachioradialis, which allows us to close up that position in terms of the arm and bring a deep lock, and again is very relevant to climbing. And what we're normally doing with these reverse curls on the weights exercise is we're really emphasizing this muscle group here and how we've stressed that in the position to closed, more down to 90 degrees or so, is we can do this on a pull-up bar by altering the grip position. So for this one, we're going to be doing it in an overhand grip position, and we're going to bring it much more narrow so that we can really work that muscle group on the bar behind me. So let's have a go at it now.
So you can see Tom's going for a much narrower grip position here. You want something comfortable, you don't want it to stress your elbows or shoulders, but sort of a bit less than shoulder width. And then you really target that brachioradialis then. And again, just straight body, no kipping, all the way up to the top.
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit too narrow for me there, so I might come a little bit wider. Yeah, so that's still stressing it, but a little bit more comfortable. So for me, I really like this particular form of pull-ups when my lats and shoulders are really dead on a session. So let's say I've been doing a lot of board climbing, or very open, wide sessions, and my back and my shoulders are just done. I can actually come into this form of exercise on a pull-up bar and do quite a lot more on top of the session because it stresses that muscle group so much and really brings your shoulders much narrower, tilts shoulders forwards a little bit more as well, and doesn't work the lats and the shoulders as much, so you can keep going on that session, still kind of get that loading and that quality in. Do be careful on this exercise though with elbows. If you're a golfer's elbow sufferer, and likewise tennis elbow sufferer, just be a little bit more cautious with it. I like doing it, I do a lot of it, but I don't do it when I'm getting tweaky elbows, so just be aware of that. Okay, so there you have it. That's our 5 key pull-up exercises for intermediate level climbers. Me and Jen are gonna go and have a pull-up session now, and we're gonna get totally beasted with it. Love this kind of stuff, and we hope to see you again very soon. Don't forget to click to like and subscribe if you wanna see more, and thank you very much for watching.